How's it going, guys? My name is Tavarish, and today we're putting my Lambo back together and hopefully not breaking any parts, because they're expensive. So if you're new to this channel, thank you for watching, thank you for joining us, and I hope you guys like what you see. Subscribe if this sort of does it for you. It definitely does it for me. This behind me is my 2008 Lamborghini Gallardo Spider. It's all taken apart, and I've been spending the last couple of days trying to put the transmission back in, and if you guys have seen my last episode, then you'll know that I broke 2 bolts. If you haven't seen that episode, then it's in the link below. But today we are continuing this work and hopefully getting everything buttoned up. And hold on, do I usually look this scruffy on camera? Yeah, this isn't working. I have an idea. This actually gives me a really good opportunity to introduce our newest sponsor, Dollar Shave Club. So if you're like me and you can't be bothered to go to the store, mainly because you're wrenching, Dollar Shave Club is exactly what you need. It's exactly what I need, especially right now. You can skip all that nonsense at the store and just have everything delivered directly to your house, like this awesome shave butter. It's actually way smoother than shaving cream, and it comes in this cool little tube. Dr. Carver shave butter. Yeah, look at that. But the best part about it is Dollar Shave Club is basically giving away their shit shower and shave starter set to new members for only $5, and that includes shipping. You guys know me, I'm a guy that loves value. This is an insane value. So here's what you get in your first Dollar Shave Club box. You get some body wash, you get some Dr. Carver shave butter, and you get One Wipe Charlie's, which is basically magic for your butt. On top of that, you get this awesome executive razor, which actually has a really good heft, really good weight to it. And you guys know me, I'm really all about executive stuff, especially when it's cheap. It also comes with cartridges that make sure that your face is clean and nice for many, many days. But when you need replacements, Dollar Shave Club will send you replacement cartridges for a few bucks a month. That is an awesome deal. Now this deal isn't around forever, and it's only available to my viewers. So if you want your shit shower and shave starter kit for only $5, then go to dollarshaveclub.com/TAV. That's dollarshaveclub.com/TAV, and you can look quite svelte in the process. Let me finish this up and let's get to work. Okay, that is much better. Now to start off on this, I want to backtrack just a little bit to my last episode. When I told you that I had 2 bolts snap in that pressure plate housing, I think that a few of you were a little bit confused, or maybe tried to give me tips when you didn't really know all the information, and also it didn't help that I didn't know all the information about these bolts. Now, since I had some time to think about it and research it, I found out a few things about my bolts. So these are the original bolts that came on the clutch. Now, I don't want to reuse these, even though these are perfectly fine to be reused. Some of you said that these are like stretch bolts, torque to yield bolts. These are not. They're regular bolts that can be reused. Now, the bolts that are on the flywheel, those actually are torque to yield, and I did replace those off camera. But this is the bolt that I got from the hardware store. This, you can see it's a little more shiny, and this is basically exactly the same size, same thread and everything. Now, a few of you have said that I shouldn't go to a Home Depot or hardware store to get bolts for a car. Now that is actually wrong, because a bolt is a bolt, and the only thing that determines what sort of bolt it is its classification. Now in the US we have a grading system, and for most automotive applications you want something grade 8 or higher. However, this is not an American car and wouldn't have American bolts on it, so SAE, all that stuff is out. I have to use a metric system. And the metric, there's a classification called a class 10.9, and it actually improves on the tensile strength of a grade 8. The 10.9 is exactly what I got here. These are hardened bolts, and they're meant to take the stresses of something like a grade 8. They're roughly equivalent. I did mess up in saying that these were galvanized. Those of you who knows what galvanized bolts look like, obviously this is not galvanized, these are just plated bolts. Galvanized leave a whitish finish on these, like a kind of an ashy finish. And galvanization is a process that basically staves off corrosion over a period of time. However, sometimes galvanization makes the bolt a little bit thicker, and sometimes it can eat into the threads of whatever you're trying to screw it into, especially if you're doing a higher torque application. Now, these ones are just coated. They look like they're either chrome plated or zinc plated or something like that. So these are not galvanized bolts, even though I doubt that these would rust or anything like that in the near future. However, I have a lot of howevers today. These are not, the originals were not 10.9 class. They're actually 12.9 class. So they actually have a higher tensile strength than the ones I got. And since I don't want to put in inferior parts, I actually did a little bit of part shopping this morning. I went to the hardware store and I got a bunch of these. These are exactly the same bolts with exactly the same markings and everything as my original bolt, but they're brand new. They are 12.9, they are hardened steel bolts, and they are meant exactly for this application because, again, they're exactly the same bolts. Now, I went to a hardware store called Fastenal. They have a lot of fasteners and hardware, just in case if you were wondering if I went to Home Depot again. I actually did, but they actually did have this bolt in Home Depot, but it was a lot shorter, so it wouldn't fit the bill. These, if anybody wants to know, they're M6 by 1.0 and they are 65 millimeters in length. But the main issue with my problem yesterday was not that I had the wrong bolts. It was the fact that I had the wrong torque spec. And a few of you told me that maybe I was reading this wrong, but no, it says apply medium thread stop, system blah, 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 and tighten the 9 screws to 70 Newton meters. So 70 Newton meters is around 51 foot-pounds, and 51 foot-pounds is a lot more than this bolt can actually take. I found out that according to Spec or other aftermarket manufacturers, that these should be torqued down anywhere between 10 to 15 foot-pounds. So that's a huge difference, and I can definitely torque these down to 10 to 15. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'll get these to around 15 or so, and then I'll give them a slight snug up with a regular ratchet, and I think they should be good to go. I'm gonna tighten them in sequence to make sure that they are 100% seated and everything is balanced and I don't have any weird vibrations or engagement. But without further ado, I'm going to put this clutch in. I'm going to get the new bolts in. I'm going to put the trans back in, and hopefully everything should slot together and I can check if the clutch actually works. So finally, we got the clutch and transmission in. Now I haven't put all the bolts in just yet. I will be putting them in, but the transmission is cinched down to the engine. Everything is mated and the clutch is torqued properly. Now I didn't actually take the transmission off to torque it down. I actually just rotated the engine through these little access ports right here with a screwdriver, old school way I know. I just got through to each bolt individually, making sure to do them in sequence. So I ended up tightening those bolts to 15 foot-pounds each, which should be fine since there are 9 of them. I put some blue thread locker and then I gave them a little tighten up with a ratchet just for good measure. So everything is good there, but I want to test out if our clutch actually works. Now, one of the big problems with this car is that it couldn't actually run. It couldn't actually drive, rather. The engine ran, but the clutch wasn't allowing this transmission to actually disengage from the engine. Come on, it's your home. You too good for your home? I'm not gonna start the engine now because we still have to redo the fuel lines and all that stuff, and that's gonna be in a future episode. But what I wanna do is I wanna test the clutch. And I think I found an interesting way to do it. You see, I can actually get to the flywheel right here, and if I use this handy dandy screwdriver, I can just turn the flywheel, and since this is engaged in gear, these axles will also turn. So I'll know that if this clutch actually works and if I press the clutch pedal down, then these shouldn't actually turn. So if these don't turn and I have the clutch pedal down while I'm turning this manually, then I know our clutch works. But we won't be able to know unless we bleed the system. And bleeding the system is actually pretty easy. The bleeder is right here, and we have so much room for activities. So this is just a 8mm or 5/16 because I can't find an 8mm. So you just put it onto here. And I'm gonna be using a power bleeder. And what it does is basically it takes compressed air and it blows it through this diaphragm, and it sucks up. It uses a Venturi effect to suck up the air and the brake fluid from the system, because we have evacuated the system. It has a ton of air in it. And then it basically takes out all the air in the system, and we have to make sure that the brake fluid master cylinder reservoir doesn't get low. So for fluid, I'm actually going to be using this. This is Motul DOT 5.1. This is really, really good for brakes. I am going to be using this on the braking system in this car because I don't know if I'm going to go to the track, but if I do, this is going to be some really, really good stuff. So I'd just like to thank Motul for sending me out some of these. These will do just fine. So this actually goes into the brake master cylinder because the brake master cylinder and the clutch master cylinder, they share a reservoir. And there's actually a cool little proportioning valve that you can't see on the outside of the car, but basically if your clutch lets go, then that means your brakes won't let go, which is a plus if I'm being honest. But let's get to work and let's get this thing bled. Okay, I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but I try to get as much light as possible. So in this hole right here, you'll be able to see the clutch mechanism. Now, you guys can help me as well because there's supposed to be a rubber grommet, a cover of some sort, covering this from debris and water and all that stuff. So if any of you can give me the part number to this cover, let me know. And there are also 3 covers up here, but you guys can't see it. But here is the throwout bearing assembly, and we'll be able to see if this thing actually works. So you're going to be able to see this moving in and out maybe slightly. So that's at least my hope. If this is working, then that's great. If it's not, then that means we're going to have to take off the transmission again. But hopefully it works. That is awesome news. Now, the throwout bearing works. The clutch pedal actually feels pretty good. It feels like it has a decent amount of pressure. So now comes a moment of truth and trying to see if that clutch actually does what it's supposed to do. All right, so just so people can see what the difference is, this is with the clutch engaged. The clutch pedal is not down, but it is in 6th gear, which means that if I turn the flywheel, you can see a small turn of the axles here. Theoretically, when the clutch is engaged, or rather disengaged, the clutch pedal is down, then the flywheel should just be independent of the transmission. So I'm gonna have my wife press down the clutch. Okay, so moment of truth, if this works. See, that is exactly what I wanted to see. So even if I put it the other way, yeah, we get no movement at all. This is absolutely perfect. We did it. We did it, guys. And you can let the clutch go. And now it should spin the other way. There we go. And it's spinning. That feels good. That feels real good. So that's where we're going to end today, and I think it's on a really, really good note. So thanks to you guys, I got the right bolts in there, made sure that it was torqued correctly, not like the workshop manual told me. I had some bumps in the road, but we got this on, the clutch is working, and it cost us no money. Now, I don't know if the clutch is gonna be, it's gonna hold all this power. I think it will. The clutch looked like it had plenty of life left on it, and we did a pretty good job as far as sanding it off and getting all that corrosion off. So I can't wait for that. Now, in the next episode, I'm going to be buttoning this thing up more. I'm going to be doing up all the bolts, and I'm going to get rid of a lot of this nastiness as far as the modified coolant lines and the modified basically everything. I want to put this back to a more stock configuration, at least until we get all the turbo system figured out. And the turbo system stuff, that's all going to be next week, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So I know a few of you guys have been a little bit impatient as far as progress updates on this and that I haven't gotten it running yet. Listen, this engine costs a lot of money. This car costs a lot of money. It's going to produce a lot of power. I want to make sure everything is done right. And sometimes I make mistakes. I know I certainly have made mistakes in the past few episodes. At the very least, I want to make sure that everything is done to the standards of a 1,000 horsepower car. So we will get there, baby steps, but the end is certainly in sight. So if you'd like to contact me, you can do so at The Real Tavarish. That is Instagram and Twitter. Facebook.com/AskTavarish and AskTavarish@gmail.com is my email. I read every single one. And thanks a lot to everyone that sends messages and helps me out with all my issues. Thank you so, so much. Also, if you'd like to buy one of these shirts and tell everybody that you are the warranty, then you can check that out in the link below. Also, Wrench Everyday Podcast is a thing, and you guys can check out me rambling about cars with my partner Andrew Howell, and we do that every single weekday on the Wrench Everyday channel. Link will be in the description below, but until next time, this is me telling you that on cars like this that now have working clutches and transmissions, you guys need to wrench every day.